Right now, in a remote mountainous village in the Himalayas, there's a student practicing some highly dangerous electrical wiring.
Oh, yeah, high voltage stuff.
Exactly. They are connecting complex circuits, managing these live lines, and frankly, they are making mistakes. I mean, a wire gets crossed, a circuit overloads, and theoretically, a lethal shock is delivered.
Right, which sounds terrifying.
It does, but nobody gets hurt. There are no sparks, no, electrical burns. The student simply takes off their virtual reality headset. They look at the error data that just synced to a cloud server somewhere, and they just try the entire process again.
It's amazing.
It really is. Today, we are tearing down the 200-year-old physical classroom model.
Yeah, because it is a radical departure from the architecture of learning that we all grew up with.
Right.
For centuries, the model was universally rigid, you know? You gather in a physical room, an expert speaks at the front, and you try to frantically absorb as much information as humanly possible before a bell rings.
Just a human tape recorder.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we are moving past that.
We absolutely are. We are taking a deep dive into the completely new mechanics of digital learning pedagogy today. And our mission for you, the listener, is to decode how the modern concept of learning actually functions underneath the hood.
Yeah, because we aren't just talking about, the temporary panic of slapping a webcam in front of a teacher.
No, not at all. Zoom School was just a Band-Aid. We are unpacking a permanent, fundamental reimagining of how human beings encounter, practice, and ultimately master new information.
Which is incredibly empowering.
It is a superpower. Whether you are managing a team, upskilling for a massive career change, or you just want to understand how to learn faster, mastering these concepts gives you a massive edge.
Absolutely. And to understand where learning is heading, we really have to look at the new physical, or rather non-physical foundation being poured.
Right, the digital plumbing.
Yeah, the entire infrastructure of education is shifting away from the brick-and-mortar building as the singular hub of knowledge. We are moving toward these highly sophisticated e-learning environments that dictate not just where we learn, but how the information is actually processed.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's talk about the heavy hitters building that foundation.
Yeah.
You've got massive platforms like Coursera and edX.
Right, the giants.
On a macro level, they are essentially tearing down the gates of elite institutions. I mean, you can access top-tier university courses, highly specialized industry certifications, and even full degrees from your living room couch.
It democratizes the access, for sure.
But the real structural change, the day-to-day stuff, happens on the micro level with platforms like Moodle and Google Classroom.
Yeah, take Moodle, for example. It's an open-source learning management system.
And open source is the key word there, right?
Exactly. Because it's open source, educators aren't just uploading static PDFs to a boring web page. They can actually get under the hood and code highly personalized learning environments.
Oh, wow. So it's not a one-size-fits-all thing anymore.
Not at all. They can build interactive modules that actually adapt to a student's reading level, or they can integrate customized grading rubrics that evaluate specific local standards. It turns a rigid syllabus into a dynamic, shifting pathway.
That's fascinating. And then Google Classroom comes in to streamline the sheer logistical nightmare of teaching.
Oh, the paperwork alone.
Right. It manages the nuts and bolts, the assignments, the deadlines, the communication loops. But the underlying power there isn't just organization, it's the data analytics.
Yes, the visibility is incredible.
An educator isn't just grading a final paper at the end of the term. They can track the entire workflow.
Yeah.
I mean, they can see exactly where a student stalled out on a digital worksheet or which specific minute of an instructional video they had to rewind, like 3 times.
And that data visibility completely changes the teacher's role.
How so?
Well, they are no longer flying blind until test day. They don't have to wait to see who failed. They can intervene at the exact moment of confusion.
Right. Course correction in real time.
Exactly. And that foundational infrastructure is really what enables the first major evolution we need to dissect today, which is blended learning.
Ah, blended learning. That's a term that gets thrown around a lot, usually just meaning we got some iPads for the classroom.
Yeah, that's the corporate buzzword version.
Right. But it is significantly deeper than that. It's the deliberate integration of traditional face-to-face methods with these new digital ecosystems. And it manifests in some wildly different ways, doesn't it?
It does. You have classroom integration, where the digital tools are used actively by students sitting right next to each other to collaborate on a live document.
Okay, sure.
Then you have flexible remote access, which is purely self-paced online learning on your own time.
But the most challenging iteration, from what I understand, is synchronous hybrid teaching.
Oh, definitely. That's the tricky one.
Because This is the attempt to merge both worlds simultaneously,
Uh,
right? You have live in-person instruction happening at the exact same moment as live online instruction.
that's the concept, yes.
See, I have to push back on the reality of that specific model.
Go for it.
Is synchronous hybrid teaching actually sustainable for a human being to facilitate? I mean, think about the cognitive load. We are asking a teacher to essentially perform two completely different jobs simultaneously.
It sounds impossible on paper.
It really does. You have 20 kids in physical chairs in front of you reading your body language, and another 20 kids in little digital boxes on a monitor who might be dealing with, I don't know, audio lag or dropped Wi-Fi. Doesn't that dual reality completely fracture a teacher's attention and degrade the experience for everyone?
If you approach it with the old mindset, absolutely.
Okay, so what's the new mindset?
Well, the early attempts at this were disastrous precisely because teachers were trying to manage two distinct rooms, a physical one and a virtual one.
Right, spinning plates.
But the maturation of platforms like Moodle and Google Classroom solves that fractured attention by creating what educators call a seamless learning flow.
Seamless learning flow. Okay.
The paradigm shift here is that the teacher is no longer managing a physical room and a virtual room. They are managing one single, centralized digital workspace.
Wait, so the physical classroom just becomes one of many access points.
Precisely. That's exactly it. All the resources, the submissions, the whiteboards, the live chat, they exist in the centralized cloud.
Oh, I see.
So the students sitting in the physical desks are interacting with that exact same digital environment as the students sitting in their living rooms. When a physical student asks a question, they aren't just talking to the room, they ask it to the digital space.
Oh, wow. So everyone is on the same page, literally.
Yes. The teacher facilitates the unified digital environment rather than splitting their brain between physical and virtual realities.
Okay, that clarifies things immensely. I like to think of it this way. If platforms like Coursera and Moodle are the physical foundation and the plumbing of a brand new school building, then blended learning is the new flexible bell schedule.
I like that.
Yeah, it dictates how, when, and from where people flow through that infrastructure.
That is a perfect structural metaphor. And once you install that flexible plumbing, you aren't just limited to mixing digital and physical elements together.
What else can you do?
You unlock the ability to completely reverse the timeline of learning. You gain the power to change exactly when and where specific cognitive tasks occur.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's explore that inversion, because it completely dismantles the educational model most of us endured. It's called the flipped classroom.
A total game changer.
But to understand why it's so powerful, we kind of have to look at why the traditional model is actually deeply flawed from a cognitive perspective.
Yeah, let's look at the old way. In the traditional model, you go to a physical class to receive the raw delivery of content, the expert lectures, and your job is to sit passively, take notes, and act as that human tape recorder we talked about.
Right, you are just absorbing the what.
Exactly. Then the bell rings, and you are sent home alone to do the homework.
And the homework is always the hardest part. The homework is the synthesis. It's applying the formula, writing the essay, solving the complex equation. We historically force students to do the most difficult, active, cognitive work entirely isolated from their peers and their instructor.
It makes no sense when you really think about it.
It doesn't. You get home, stare at the math problem, realize you only understood 50% of the lecture,
Yeah.
and you are completely stuck with no lifeline.
It creates completely unnecessary friction. But the flipped classroom strategy completely reverses that dynamic.
So how does it work?
Step 1, the raw absorption of content happens at home. Students encounter the baseline material on their own time. They watch recorded video lessons, interact with digital notes, or listen to audio modules.
Which gives the learner total control over the pace. I love that.
Exactly.
If I'm a fast reader, I can breeze through the theory. But if I struggle with a concept, I can pause the video, rewind, and rewatch the explanation 3 times without feeling the social pressure of holding up a physical class.
That lack of social pressure is huge. Then comes step 2. They bring that baseline theoretical knowledge into the classroom to actually apply it.
Real.
Because the lecture is already done, the in-class time is entirely transformed. The room isn't quiet anymore, it's noisy.
I love a noisy classroom.
It means they're working. It's dedicated to group projects, complex problem solving, active debate, and peer feedback.
It's kind of like, imagine you are trying to become a master chef.
Okay, I'm with you.
The traditional model is like going to a commercial kitchen, sitting on a stool, and just watching the chef talk about how to hold a knife and chop an onion for an hour.
Very boring.
Right. And then you go home to your own empty kitchen and try to replicate it, inevitably cutting your finger because nobody is watching you.
Exactly.
The flipped classroom is watching the cooking show at home on your tablet. You learn the theory of the knife grip from your couch, but you save the actual physical onion chopping for the classroom, where the master chef is standing right over your shoulder, adjusting your wrist angle in real time. You do your homework in class and your classwork at home.
That cooking analogy is brilliant because it highlights a crucial truth about how the human brain masters complex skills.
Which is?
Passive consumption can be done in isolation. But active synthesis, critical thinking, and true problem solving, they require community.
They require friction.
Yes, the friction of other human minds. They require immediate peer feedback. By flipping the classroom, we take the most valuable, expensive resource in education, which is human interaction, and reserve it entirely for the most difficult part of the learning process.
It seems so obvious in hindsight. Like, why waste precious group time just listening to someone talk when you can do that on a morning jog?
Exactly.
But, and there's a but, that brings up a massive hurdle.
Okay, what is it?
The flipped classroom works brilliantly for standard subjects. History, mathematics, literature, coding things based on theory, discussion, and digital application.
Sure.
But how does digital pedagogy handle skills that are inherently physical, highly complex, or, frankly, actively dangerous? If I am learning to operate heavy industrial machinery, or I'm a medical student learning spinal surgery, a lively group discussion about theory isn't going to get me there. I need my hands on things.
Which brings us to the absolute vanguard of educational technology, virtual simulations, and the global collaborative tools that support them.
This is the bleeding edge.
It really is. This is how digital pedagogy tackles the problem of intense, hands-on physical practice.
So we are moving past flat screens and into fully technology-driven environments.
Right. The most prevalent example is the immersive VR classroom. You put on a headset, and you are no longer looking at a 2D video. You are standing inside a fully 3D environment.
Like the Matrix?
Oh, sort of, yeah. You can walk around a virtual engine block or step inside a microscopic cell. Then you have interactive digital science labs, which recreate the entire environment of a chemistry or physics lab.
So you can run tests without equipment.
Exactly. It allows for massive data analysis and experimentation without a single physical beaker.
But the most profound application, going back to my surgery example, is in medical procedure practice.
Oh, the medical field is all over this.
We are seeing incredibly detailed simulations where a medical student is operating on a virtual patient. And because of haptic feedback, when that medical student presses the virtual scalpel into the simulation, the controllers actually push back against their hand.
It's wild.
It simulates the exact physical resistance of cutting through different layers of human tissue and bone.
The technology is undeniably cool.
It is, but I have to ask, doesn't the lack of actual danger cheapen the learning?
How do you mean?
Well, a digital science lab is neat, but mixing volatile, highly reactive chemicals in the real world carries a psychological weight.
True.
Holding a real scalpel over a real breathing patient changes your heart rate, your palms sweat. If we remove the real-world stakes and the tactile reality, aren't we just training people to be really good at video games?
It is a vital critique. It's a very common concern. But when you look at how these interactive environments are designed, the phrase risk-free experimentation is heavily emphasized for a reason.
Why?
That lack of physical danger isn't a limitation of the software. It is actually the primary feature that accelerates human learning.
Wait, really? How does removing the stakes speed up the learning?
By drastically increasing the volume of practice. Think about a physical chemistry lab. If a student miscalculates a mixture, the beaker boils over, the materials are ruined, they spend 20 minutes cleaning up, and their experiment is basically over for the day.
Right, they lost their chance.
They don't get to try again immediately. But in a virtual lab, a student can run that exact same complex experiment 50 times in an hour.
50 times?
Yeah. They can intentionally mix the wrong chemicals just to observe the explosive reaction safely. This freedom to fail repeatedly, instantly reset, and try again builds neural pathways incredibly fast.
Oh, wow. The repetition. I hadn't considered the pure volume of reps.
It's all about the reps.
You don't have to prep a physical surgical theater, sterilize the equipment, or source a cadaver. You just hit, reset, and perform the incision again and again until the muscle memory is locked in tight.
Exactly. And you aren't doing those reps in a vacuum. These simulations are wrapped in a layer of collaborative tools.
What does that mean?
Even if you're standing alone in your living room wearing a VR headset, your exact movements, your reaction times, and your error rates are being captured in real time.
The data again?
Always the data. And that data is instantly shared to interactive project boards where your instructors and peers, who could literally be on the other side of the planet, can review your performance.
So they can co-author feedback documents and strategize your next attempt with you.
Precisely. It merges intense physical practice with global collaboration.
Okay, so we've established the robust infrastructure, we've flipped the timeline of learning, and we've explored high-tech immersive VR.
We've covered a lot.
We have. But it is very easy to picture all of this working perfectly in a well-funded Ivy League university with gigabit internet and unlimited technology budgets.
Right, the ideal scenario.
But the true power of any system is how it performs under stress. The ultimate test of digital pedagogy is its ability to scale and adapt to severe geographical, economic, and infrastructure challenges.
Which is why we have to look closely at the technical and vocational education and training sector in Nepal.
Yes, the TDET sector.
This is where high theory meets incredible physical hurdles.
Nepal is characterized by massive mountain ranges, isolated rural villages, and terrain that makes running traditional broadband fiber optic cables nearly impossible in many regions.
It's a logistical nightmare for internet providers.
Yet they are actively deploying these exact digital learning concepts to empower their workforce.
How? They are doing it by fundamentally adapting the delivery method. Because traditional internet infrastructure is lacking, they lean heavily into mobile learning.
Using what they have.
Exactly. They utilize the cellular networks that already exist. A student living on a remote terraced mountainside can use a basic smartphone to stream video lectures and download complex technical PDFs.
Wow.
Mobile technology bridges a geographical divide that would otherwise isolate that learner entirely.
But the brilliance to me is how they handle the blended learning aspect, because this is vocational training. We are talking about carpentry, metalworking, electrical engineering.
Hands-on stuff.
Right. They aren't trying to replace the physical traditional workshop. They are blending it.
Flipped classroom in action.
Yes. A student studies the complex physics of a load-bearing wood joint on their smartphone at home. Then they travel to the traditional physical workshop to actually pick up a saw and cut the wood alongside an instructor.
But the bridge between the smartphone theory and the physical saw is where it gets truly futuristic.
Tell me about it.
They are integrating virtual skill training right into those rural settings.
This absolutely blew my mind.
It's incredible.
They are literally using VR as a flight simulator for tradesmen. You have a student in a rural classroom putting on a headset, holding a modified physical prop, and practicing the physical motion of sawing wood to get the angle just right before they ever touch an expensive, finite piece of real lumber.
Yes.
Or, like the scenario we opened with, they are practicing wiring a complex electrical grid in a virtual environment where a mistake just means a screen flash rather than a catastrophic injury.
It is the perfect synthesis of everything we've discussed today. It takes the risk-free experimentation of those medical simulations we talked about and applies it to vital, everyday trades.
It's so practical.
And even across the massive distances of the Himalayas, those VR sessions and mobile modules are linked through collaborative project platforms, connecting rural apprentices with master instructors in the capital.
That is just brilliant.
It honors the deeply physical, historical nature of vocational workshops, but it gives the apprentice infinitely more tools, vastly more repetitions, and entirely safe practice before they step up to the real workbench.
It proves that these concepts aren't just academic theories. This infrastructure is actively retraining the global workforce under some of the most challenging conditions on Earth.
It really is.
We've covered a massive amount of ground today. We started by laying down the new digital plumbing, the Coursera's and Moodles that centralize our learning environments.
The foundation.
We looked at how that infrastructure allows us to completely flip the timeline, moving away from passive note-taking and turning the classroom into a loud, active hub of peer feedback.
Flipped learning.
We stepped inside virtual simulations where haptic feedback and the freedom to fail accelerate our muscle memory. And finally, we saw those exact principles deployed in the mountains of Nepal to revolutionize physical trades.
It represents a total paradigm shift in human development. We are officially moving away from a system designed to simply deliver content to passive listeners and evolving into a system focused on designing experiences for active participants.
So what does this actually mean for you, the person listening right now?
A lot, hopefully.
It means you have unprecedented agency. Whether you are trying to master a new coding language, prep for a massive corporate presentation, or you just love diving into new hobbies, understanding how your brain best absorbs and practices information is a massive advantage.
Absolutely.
If you know that reading a textbook alone won't lock in the knowledge, you can consciously build your own flipped model. You can absorb the theory on your own, but then actively seek out community, debate, and friction to truly master the application. The barrier to entry for deep, complex mastery has never been lower. You are in control of your own pedagogy.
The infrastructure is waiting. The tools are incredibly powerful. It simply requires a shift in how you choose to engage with the learning process.
But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final lingering thought based on where this technology is clearly heading.
Oh, this is a good one.
We've seen that virtual reality, coupled with highly accurate haptic feedback, can successfully teach intensely physical, high-stakes vocational skills from thousands of miles away. So what happens to the historical concept of the apprenticeship?
That's the big question.
Will the elite surgeons, the master carpenters, and the leading engineers of tomorrow learn their entire trade in the digital ether? Will they achieve true mastery in a world made of pixels and resistance motors long before their hands ever touch physical steel, wood, or bone?
It's a wild thought.
That's a wild thought.